Greetings, Darklings, from across the interweb. It's once again I, the Duchess, Precious Ken, here for the Sounds and Shadows podcast. And I got a doozy today. I'm going to have to try and keep my calm. But as always, we'll start out with shout-outs. If you send me things, I will wear them or show them on the show. One of which, I have this beautiful t-shirt that came in for our friends Ashes Fallen, the band. But they also do a lot to support Malia, the original Vampira, and support her historic society there. And so it's a cool t-shirt with her and a song they did that says, is that a crucifix in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me? So very cool. You can get that on Ashes Fallen's website. And then the other one I have is I have a interview I'm going to be releasing here coming up from Marcy Angeles, who, and you can't see the book because of my green screen, but just put out this book called A Tale of Coiled Sound. That's a series of interviews she's done with bands over the years, talking about the modern music scene, shoegaze in particular. Very, very cool. So there'll be an interview release coming up about that, but definitely go to Amazon and check out A Tale of Coiled Sound. All right, without further ado, a lot of people on the webpage, our review page, and our Facebook group know that if I can't come up with a good song of the day, if I just don't have anything that hits me, I say the default song of the day always is Shriekback Nemesis. And that I talk about this a lot, and this is a band near and dear to my heart. Just one of my favorite bands over the course of the years, and the fact that I'm able to now introduce and have on Barry Andrews. Welcome to Sounds and Shadows.
Hi Ken. Nice to be here.
Okay. Wow. All right. I'm going to try and just be cool for this one and keep journalistic integrity here.
That's the spirit.
Your history, which usually we'd get into in the beginning, entails you've played in XTC. Shriekback has, 18 albums out now?
18 now, yeah.
Wow. A historic career. Some of my favorites, Trench, 1982, Oil and Gold, which is largely considered to be a genuine classic album from 85. Big Night Music, and another one I really liked, Why Anything, Why This, in 2018. So there's that. As I said, you played with XTC on 2 albums with them. You played on an Iggy Pop album. Just a amazing career in the industry. So what I'd kind of start asking is, what was it for you that just put you on the path, whether it was a band you saw, whether it was something you read or heard that just opened your mind to wanting to do art and music as your life?
I reckon it was my auntie used to have a whole bunch of 78 records, if anyone remembers those.
Yeah.
Big old things made of shellac that would break very easily, very brittle. And we had a wind-up record player, which gives you some idea how very old I am. And I used to listen to them as a kid. Things like Ghost Riders in the Sky, Indian Love Call. Basically, was my Auntie Joan's taste from kind of the post-war moment leading into the 50s, I suppose. And it was 16 Tons, Tennessee Ernie Ford. These sort of kind of American Gothic pop songs, I suppose. They're the first things that stick in my mind as a demonstration of what music can do. And I think there was that, wow, I just want to keep, why does that feel so good? That tune going over and the things it makes you feel, So I became sort of childishly aroused by this new thing, a new experience. And I guess as I got older, I got to listen to classical music for the first time, the sort of the tuney bits of Beethoven and Tchaikovsky to start with. And and sort of the idea of the orchestra, this huge thing and just the sound of it was just incredible. And I started to think, I would like to do that. I would like to be able to. How do you get in a position where you can organize this sort of thing and make other people? I suppose that's the corollary of it, isn't it? That you want get to other people to feel the things that you manage to feel. So yeah, instruments. My granddad played the piano in a pub in South London. And so I kind of went along to Granddad and said, "You teach me how to play the piano." He was a gruff old fellow who was a sergeant major in the First World War. He was actually born in the late 1800s, but it's a man of a different era completely. And he had this shitty old piano in his back room in London, and he showed me how to play with one finger. Old Man River, is it Rodgers and Hart? Or Hammerstein, one of the two. And that was kind of it, really. It was all downhill from there on.
I love that, and I think that is how a lot of us, found this. And I like that you said that about your grandfather. I too, my dad was a military man and very gruff, and so I think that did lend some influence that growing up felt a little like basic training at times with that gruffness, and then ending up with a son in nail polish and eyeliner singing goth songs. So
it's a standard career path.
So I think for me, when I think of Shriekback, it's one of those bands that is very hard to define genre-wise. Not that I think defining anything genre-wise is a great idea, but truly your sound over 18 albums has expanded into just about anything you can imagine or think of, with, different kinds of, I don't know, blends of psychedelic ideas. But I feel like there are core ideas, kind of a naturalism, animalism, things like that tie your records together much more than, I don't know, a style of music. And so I heard you in another interview when I was kind of looking for this, you talking about music is like tending an English garden to you. That, you're putting together,
me, wasn't it?
Yeah, these different ideas and being organic and kind of giving it life in this way. And I wondered if you'd kind of tell me a little bit about your process or philosophy that maybe ties Shriekback as an idea together that you feel like overlaps through a lot of the albums.
Yeah, no, it's a very good question. That I will struggle with, I suspect, but I'll say what I can about that, because there is, to me, a mystery to it, which probably isn't as profound as I think it is, but it is a question of, I know what I do, and I best not fuck around with it too much, because you know what happens when you think too much about anything. I suppose when I started, when I was in XTC, I was still very much in the frame of mind that you had to write songs and you had to put things together with chords, and this bit was the chorus and all the rest of it. And I guess after I left XTC and came to London and listened to funk and reggae, really, I think were the two kinds of music that gave me this sort of epiphany, which is that I don't like all the stops and starts. I mean, I still love songs, but I like things that just sort of roll on endlessly. The primacy of the groove, and it seemed to me, I want to make stuff like that. I want something that's kind of seamlessly just goes on like the river or the ocean, or some sort of and an idea that came with it, I suppose, that nature was the thing that you were trying to sort of make something, add something to nature, I guess. So the idea would be that it would be detailed, but sort of very simple at the same time. So, like sort of looking at a forest from the air looks very sort of straightforward, but then you get a bit closer and it's very, very complicated. And the closer you get, the more complicated it gets until you get to like an individual leaf, and it's really amazingly complicated. So I like the idea of making music that was kind of like that. You sort of that contained multiplicities of things, and I guess part of making something as rich and densely textured as possible was to do something with words that had a lot of overtones and meaning fissures in them that could also that would react in some sort of a positive and interesting way with the setting that you put the words into. And I think surprisingly, I was a bit surprised that you said that you felt there were lots of kind of, we've expressed it in lots of different ways, because to me it does seem like almost boringly kind of, oh, it's that, isn't it? You know, I mean, when people say to me, how do you know if it's just you? Then how is it still Shriekback? I said, well, you just have to listen to it, don't you? Really, it's some songs are Shriekback and other songs are not Shriekback. It's just fucking obvious, you know. And it's certainly obvious when you're making them, is that, you know, some things just go naturally into the Shriekback bucket and others don't. And they are what their sort of their family resemblances, always the primacy of the groove, always the attempt at sonic richness, always an interest in denseness of meaning in the lyrics, and beyond that, really, you know, do whatever you want. The apple won't fall that far from the tree. That's as good as I can get there with that.
No, I love that, and I think it hits on a lot what I think of as Shriekback. There's two functions there. Number one, the music does have, there's a progness, a expansiveness, and pulling in, like you said, like upbeats of reggae or things like that, but mixing them with dark and synth themes. But the other thing when I think of as Shriekback is your lyrics. I think those are kind of the two things where I can hear a new song for a few and be like, that's a Shriekback song. And, sure. And the other one is your poetry of that. And it just has...
You'd have to include... I would be remiss if I didn't point out that, you know, at least half of the Shriekback songs that you like are by Karl Marsh, lyrically.
Yes, true. But you guys have a really visual and carnal nature to the way that you approach the words and the songs. They just... They make them feel visceral and alive to me. And also it's clever, you know, it's things that uses, you know, off rhymes or, you know, tying ideas together that come from where I get to go afterwards when I hear a Shriekback song and Google search or look up and look for these classical references that you make a lot of, whether it's in, you know, Greek or Roman or religious iconography. The pageantry of that.
Bunch of clever dicks.
But you know what? There isn't enough of that anymore. Things in some ways do follow patterns and in some ways get too simple, I think. And I really love bands that bother, if you want to follow a mystery while listening to this song and learn more about it, you can. There is another layer there.
Yeah, so, I do like that. I think that, and you know, I would challenge anyone to say that you can't write really complicated and dense songs and, you know, be as much of a clever dick as you want. But on the other hand, I do think that the ultimate goal is to sort of have that complexity within simplicity. When you can get that sort of that's ostensibly that's very simple, isn't it? But actually, the more you think about it, there's all sorts.
Exactly. And again, it gives you a chance to be, like you said, impacted by music on different levels. Sometimes I had a bad day and I just want to flip on a record, do the dishes, and listen to it.
Sure.
But sometimes I want to sit down with a couple of friends and really hear those words and pull it apart and start talking about the conversation that it generates. And I feel like Shriekback is one of those bands that is my favorite for doing both, and I think that's what makes it powerful for me. Nice. So my question is,
yes,
when you're setting about writing lyrics like that, as somebody, I write songs, I write lyrics. What is your process for that? Do you have a song that you work on to get it, and that will inspire the words that you're saying? Or do you start out kind of thinking about the concept of a whole when you're writing both the music?
That is that's a real question and a half. Somebody asked Karl, so where do you get your lyrical ideas? And he said, if I knew where I got my lyrical ideas, I'd go around with a van and a big credit card and just buy them all and take them home. Because that to me is and I know to Karl, that's the bit. You can generate grooves all day long, and some of them are great, some of them are not so great, but they're all sort of doable. Just that's an interesting atmosphere, and it's got a nice movement to it. You could even dance to that one, But then to actually turn them into an actual song is I have compared it to apple bobbing. Not that I've ever done apple bobbing more than maybe once unsuccessfully, but there is a feeling to it that if you're trying to grab it too hard, the apple moves away from you into the water. But if you don't grab it hard enough, then you're never going to be able to get it out of the barrel. So I think I find that the case with words. I have copious notebooks full of like redolent little phrases that have usually come off the telly. I'm finding American cable TV to be full of things like things like the hill you're going to die on, or I don't know what's the recent one.
Are there any things?
The optics of something. So stuff like that you just kind of, that's a funny little thing. That's a way, and generally there is a kind of thinking that is people who use that phrase. There's a sort of thinking that that accompanies it that engendered that kind of phraseology, and that to me is always interesting. So I collect those. But the point at which you go, oh, I know that could be that could be a chorus right there, couldn't it? Is a much harder to grasp thing. And like I say, there are many dead grooves that just lie by the side of the road that never got to make it to song heaven.
Well, I want to spend a lot of time here, instead of talking about the past. You have a brand new album out, Movement, Monument. Got New Order popped into my head. Monument.
Bowel Monument. Oh, fuck me. Sorry.
That I listened to several times coming up, getting ready for this, and I have some notes here, and I wonder if we can kind of go through that a little bit.
Sure.
Starting out with the title of it, in Monument, being an 18th album, and kind of what that said and what your idea was, that because when you have a title track, to me, it was meant to glue everything together.
Yeah.
And what was kind of the glue or idea that you woke up that morning and decided it's time to put a new idea in the world?
Well, I'm quite old. I'll be 70 next birthday. And what I have found, unsurprisingly, is that you do spend at this time of life, you are quite on a daily basis aware of running out of road, as they say.
Sure.
And inshallah, body's still working all right, but it's, you are aware of these things, and the idea of legacy had never kind of occurred to me really as a younger man. But yeah, in spite of the fact that it's kind of lame, and how long does anything last? You go to a cemetery and there are plenty of graves that are like 70 years old that clearly nobody has looked at in quite a while. They're already gone. So it is a bit of a sort of thankless task to imagine that you're going to sort of last after you die. But nevertheless, you do kind of feel like that would be kind of nice, wouldn't it, if people still talked about you after you. So if the frisson that you get from listening to a Shriekback tune, if people in the future might sort of still manage to have that, that would be that's a nice thought, isn't it? So yeah, I got me thinking about the idea of monumentalizing things. And some years ago, when I was in my sculptural phase, I stopped doing music for about 6 years and just worked in 3D objects, sometimes in sculpture, sometimes in furniture, and to keep
You had
body
a
and
gallery, didn't you, as well?
Me and Regine, who's a sculptress, had a little shop called the Hoxton Gift Shop, which was essentially a kind of a bijou gallery,
Yeah.
which managed to go broke in about 6 months. Everyone came in and said how beautiful it was, and then fucked off without buying anything. Anyway, yeah, but during that time, anyway, to keep body and soul together, I worked in a bronze foundry. And it was interesting. It was this interesting place to work. And so doing that all day, so people come in to get things made into bronze. And I suppose when you see something, somebody comes in with a bit of some object in clay or wax or something, and in 3 weeks' time, there is this object which will last longer than you will, or they will, or the object that they've memorialized in bronze. That object will still be there, and so this human, really deep-seated human need to make things into some kind of solid thing that will outlast us is it's kind of sad and pathetic, and incredibly understandable at the same time, I suppose. So I was interested in having a look at that and what came along with it, apart from all these aspirations to be, one of the great men of history, which I touch on in the verses, the Ulysseses and the Staggerlees and the Socrateses. There's also underneath it all this idea of that you're absolutely a piece of shit. You're not worth memorializing at all, which I think quite often the sort of people who care so much that they want to have themselves memorialized in bronze long to last long into the future, quite often in their heart of hearts do think they're an absolute worthless little goblin in a ball game.
It's hard to do big things without making mistakes, and I think that is something that's very true. I also love that you say that, because look, humans have always been obsessed with this idea of, as you said, monuments, creating a physical thing that would go on after me. And I think more than ever in life, in say the last 15, 20 years of the digital age, that's actually starting to change, I think, to the point that you just made, like graveyards where once this was something where people would go and visit their, family or their parents' tombstones and bring flowers, or The idea of, some cultures having kind of ancestor shrines in their homes and things like that,
Yeah.
where it's starting to be something that's slipping out of society. I think in a lot of places more than ever, where it doesn't get the same attention.
That's
And
really
so
right.
when I was hearing this and thinking about monuments, that's definitely a thought that occurred to me as maybe somebody in the middle at 47, but close enough I can start thinking about kind of the ideas of what you're saying. But
Well,
also
the big surprise, no, not to bring anybody down or anything, but the big surprise that I found in my life was hitting 50, and you're still everything's fine except the generation above you all start falling off the perch around about then, and suddenly there's all this kind of grown up responsible shit you have to do as you step up to be the executor, or the guy who organizes the funeral, or the guy who has to stand up at the funeral and say a few words about mum or dad or Auntie Reen. And certainly there's to your point, the idea of once upon a time we'd know, you get buried in the local churchyard and you go there with your grandchildren, and you put some flowers on the grave on their birthdays, and it's understood and they are buried there. But with my generation it was very hard. Everyone wants to get cremated, and then they get cremated, but in this enormous field where I think my granddad, there was something like the size of a sort of 50 pence coin, where he was out there somewhere. And in what sense is he even out there? You know what I mean? Oh well, if you want, we can set up this thing with flowers in the actual chapel, but that'll cost you like 300 quid a year. And of course, maybe you do it for the first few years, but after a while, it's
and I've seen a lot of people, as you said, nowadays it's still a monument, but maybe taking ashes and pressing them into a record or an object or something like that for your home. But I see that a lot more too, which is a different kind of association and interesting.
But a lot more people tend towards we just get. It was this lovely place out by the sea, and he always loved coming here, so we scattered his ashes there.
Yes, yeah.
So as soon as you do that, you're getting pretty zen about it at that point, aren't you? It's just
right.
There's nothing to memorialize. He's gone, and we scatter his ashes, think about him a little bit. That's probably as much as anybody's going to get.
Sure.
And probably it's a more elegant way probably to deal with the problem of people disappearing.
But I like the idea that, when you've had a career like yours, the idea of, for an 18th album, doing something both poking fun at, like you said, like, oh, that's kind of silly, but also the reality of thinking about it and doing it, that a legacy or a monument matters. So
yeah. Well, I like the idea of things that are funny and serious at the same time. I think the most funny things are the things that are not trying to be funny. And there is certainly there's a black humor to that, isn't there? That's granddad in the urn, all the ashes in Well, I remember a girlfriend of mine took her dad to be he was cremated in London, but they all went with the family out to Ireland, and they were going to have like a ceremony out there with all his relatives, and so they all sort of left at first thing in the morning with dad's mum, with no sense of kind of the aesthetics of it all, had just got poured the ashes into a plastic bag for ease of transport. And so where's dad? Where's he got? Oh, no, I left dad he's under the table there. Who's got dad? It's just the whole thing is like, turns into a black comedy so easily, really, isn't it?
So the new album opens up with a song called The Curse. And I really like this one. It got me engaged off the bat. It had a sense of almost, for me in America here, a Southern gospel type flavor to the song a little bit that I picked. And the keys in it, instead of sounding like a keyboard, it very much had like a Hammond organ Ray Manzarek kind of sound that I enjoyed, which again ties in with kind of that, I don't know, gospel idea that went off of the mindset. But with the lyrics on it and I believe I wrote what, Quizocoth made the windows rattle.
Quetzalcoatl.
Yeah, Quetzalcoatl made the windows rattle, and I love that. I don't know, rhyme and idea to it. You always want to open with a banger on the album. What was this track to you, kind of to open things up as part of your monument?
Well, I think it came from a much more musical place than anything else. I really wanted to do one of those big ass funky sort of 90 BPM thing. There's a tune that we all used to dance to like maniacs back in the day. The Brecker Brothers, East River, if you know it. East River, and it's huge. It sounds as big as a house. It's such a great production. And I just fancied doing something like that, and I sort of conflated that with Parliament and George Clinton and the big ass squelchy Moog bass. So it just wanted to go with that, and then I saw the Emma Stone, Nathan Fielder fake documentary called The Curse, and I just thought that was which is brilliant bit of telly, I would say.
Yeah.
Sort of, I don't know, just the idea of inevitable things. I suppose, I suppose that chimed lyrically with an idea about the lack of free will, moving in predestinated ways, that you don't have much choice, that there is a curse on you, that you always will do this thing.
Sure. The idea too, kind of take like a werewolf type thing, particular where it's a generational curse that goes on. It kind of had me thinking about that as well, of how a curse is passed down, multiple times, and your family kind of is always coming back to this.
There are plenty of real life examples of familial curses as well, aren't there?
Yeah, both supernatural and, I mean, that we repeat ourselves in this, and kind of, I don't know, in some ways carry these wounds that we take on, and sadly end up finding ourselves doing them after they were done to us.
They fuck you up, your mum and dad, but they were fucked up in their turn.
Phillip Larkin is one of my favorite. That poem is one of my favorites of all time. I love that. So that's great.
Mate of mine tried to say on his parents' silver anniversary or something, sent them a parody of it called "They Buck You Up, Your Mum and Dad."
I love it.
It's sort of relentlessly cheerful all the way through. I'm sure Phillip Larkin would not have approved.
The next track that you had on there is Ithaca, which, as you mentioned, kind of Iliad and Odyssey before, but the Odyssey, that was the island from it, right?
Ithaca is the kingdom of Ulysses. He's the king of Ithaca, back in the day where little tiny islands were their own kingdoms. So he leaves Ithaca to go and fight the wars, and then when he's the enemy is defeated and he just wants to get home, but then he accidentally, it's out of his hands really. He kills the Cyclops, and the Cyclops is the son of Poseidon, the god of the sea.
Yeah.
So Poseidon's a bad lad to get on the wrong side of if you're about to undertake a long sea voyage.
And he got cursed.
So Poseidon curses him, yeah. And that's how we get the Odyssey, with all these episodic moments where he meets the sirens and he meets the oxen of the sun and blah blah blah. But he's all the time trying to get back to home, to Ithaca. And there's the Greek word nostos means home, and nostalgia the word nostalgia comes from that. So there's a poem by Constantine Cavafy, which is called Ithaca, which is much more upbeat, it turns out, than the thing I did. But I thought I'd stick him in the middle, and this nice Greek guy is beautifully enunciated Greek in the middle, so you can hear, bring a bit of local colour, I thought.
Yeah. It was funny when you were talking about that too, and earlier on this. I remember my wife and we went to Athens, Greece, and I remember this moment that really stuck in my mind. We both love history, and we first got there. We get on the tube station, like the subway, and they had broken away with glass part of the wall because they discovered a ruin. So it has these burial site in it and pottery and all these things. And we're just standing there in awe of how old this was, that people did this and walked this path this many years before we even existed. And there's people that are just trying to go to work that are like, hey, get out of my fucking way. I have to go to work right now and get on the train. And it hit me that it had just become so commonplace for them that they see something that to me is this mystery or, monument or took me away. But it's just what they see every day. It's just they walk past a million ruins every day, and it just doesn't even faze them anymore. And it kind of hit me on this idea of, a monument that loses meaning because you're used to it, but to anyone else seeing it, it would strike them to the core.
Sure. It's hard to be in perpetual amazement, isn't it? Sort of need to go on holiday to get your amazement and come back home to you.
So the next track that you had up there was Wasps in Heaven. And this was another one where the song was really, really cool. It hit me. But the idea of it, I was just floored. Like this idea of, even there in heaven, that there would be wasps and that they would have a place there. Was that a reference or something that you pulled from somewhere, or just an idea that got in your head?
Not really. I think there was some kind of internet meme about wasps and how sort of just kind of pointlessly malign they are so, compared to the noble bee that has so many, that works industrially.
But a wasp is just there to mess you up. And also, I've heard they have memories. Like if you, apparently, if you swatted a wasp or that they actually remember you, and genetically, even their hive, weeks, a month later, they will remember you and come after you if they see you.
Seems like vengeance might be in their little insectoid vocabulary, doesn't it? I wouldn't put it past them. Yeah, I suppose so. That idea of oh god, this it probably says that I'm really quite a miserable bastard. In that, even in heaven there would be wasps, wouldn't there? So those moaning kind of
all God's creatures. They are, and all the wasps you wrong still remember you when you get there to heaven.
That's right. Yeah. All these wasps still bearing a grudge turn up at the pearly gates asking after you. So really just that. And there were a few other verses that I didn't put in there to do with the wasp getting drowning in ambrosia. So you're trying to you drink your ambrosia, but there's a couple of wasps going.
I love that. Again, just the imagery of it, I really like. And I remember when I was kind of like listening and doing my Google search, there is a Bible reference that I don't know if you even thought about that, but I saw it there from Exodus that I will send wasps before you.
Really?
To the kingdom of heaven or something. There's
oh wow.
So when I looked for it, that was a line where I was like, oh wow, I wonder
if you find that, if you could send me, I'd love.
It's Exodus 23:28. I'll email it to you.
All right, okay, 23:28.
Not that I am some biblical scholar by any means, but
no, we need your Utah mates for that, don't we? Yeah, far out.
All right. So the next track up, was Just World Fallacy. And I like the cadence for it. That's what struck me about that song in the very beginning, is the way that kind of you were, the rhythm in how you were delivering the lyrics to it was really cool. And the keyboard play on it, that's what really got me about that song. It was, I don't know, so be less the lyrics that really hit me, as more just kind of the offbeat that you were delivering them on.
I think it was a deliberate attempt to do that thing they do in the army, or
Yeah, that's what I mean.
films
Kind of
about
like,
the army.
I don't
I
know,
don't know, but I'm told.
exactly.
Yeah. So that was the idea of that. And then I was sort of he comes up a lot in across the album is King Lear.
Yes.
One of the great. It's at the end of my life, and I've managed to learn absolutely nothing from all my privilege and long years on this earth, and now I'm going to do some really stupid shit. And
Wisdom is the knowledge to know you know nothing.
yeah. Well, he just carries on doing stupid stuff, doesn't he? And but then he does finally learn something, and by then it's too late, which is his tragic flaw, isn't it?
That's always the
He is a. I find it of all Shakespeare's just the most true to life. That people just do things that it isn't necessarily some sort of huge tragic flaw. It's just kind of they didn't pay attention and not pay enough attention to things, and they were a bit foolish and but not sort of hugely, just kind of, and then just made some stupid choices out of just kind of lack of not taking care of things enough, not noticing things enough, not being careful enough with people, or having bad judgments about people. And it seems to me that there's a truth in that. Anyway, Lear, when he's out on the heath with his fool, and the last guy who's going to stick by him, he comes across a madman, if you remember the play. Who's actually not really a madman, but a sane man dressed as a madman. He's covered in shit and thorns, and he's just talking nonsense all the time. And Lear's by now, who's kind of getting pretty unhinged himself. He says, "Oh yeah, I want to talk to this. Who is this learned philosopher?" And this guy's just babbling nonsense. Poor Tom's a couple. And he says, what do you? I'm going to talk to my learned scholar here. He says, what do you study? He says, how to kill vermin and avoid the foul fiend. And he keeps just going on about the foul fiends after him. And I just thought, at this time when all sorts of just evil forces seem to be ramping abroad, with nothing able to restrain them, it seems.
For me, they aren't abroad. They're right here, happening in my country.
They are happening in your country, and but lots of we've got a few things bubbling up now.
Sure. There's plenty to go around, but no, it is. I mean, a terrifying time, and I've always loved a good cautionary tale. And I think, to your point, even when you're talking about someone at the end of their life learning a lesson before it's too late, but always the point of that story is we're supposed to take away, it isn't too late for us, and to take away, rather than just focus on how sad it is that this person didn't.
Sure. Yeah. Well, there's something I sort of toy around with is philosophy, and I just like sort of. I think when I first started to get interested in it, I was interested in finding some answers to the great questions of life, particularly the metaphysical ones. And what you discover quite quickly is that what philosophy is great at is just like, well, there's this, but on the other hand, there's also that, and people have been arguing about this since the time of Aristotle. And no one has yet decided. Every sort of 10 years, some wild young thing from the philosophy scene goes, I've got a theory about this, and I don't know, give Aristotle what for, and everyone goes, interesting. But on the other hand, there's the other that might not be true. So, and it's just this kind of thing that you can drive yourself crazy with. And one
It's
of the
not solutions, it's things for us to argue in pubs and distract ourselves.
exactly, yeah. So why anything? Why this was a
Yes.
philosophical question that nobody has yet satisfactorily resolved, and the just world fallacy is another one where people are essentially saying that there is everything will be all right, and that the good are rewarded and that the evil are punished. And it was right after when your man got elected for the second time. For Christ's sake, I think I wrote
I assure you, he is no man of mine, and it was a tough day for a lot of us Americans. Just very disappointing, where we had to wake up that morning and look in the mirror and say, we like to fool ourselves into thinking that this many in our country aren't like this, but they are. And it has been a dark time for a lot of us in a lot of ways, sense of figuring out how we deluded ourselves into thinking this couldn't happen.
Sure, yeah. I've been following it obsessively since he got in the first time, and yeah, it makes me very worried and not a little depressed. My girlfriend just says, "Are you watching Trump again?" Fuck's sake, leave it alone. You're not. Yeah. You're not doing anyone any good, are you?
Yeah, it's usually the other way around with me telling her to stop that. But yes.
Oh, really?
But at the same time, it's, I don't know. Ignoring problems like that is what led a lot of us to this in the first place, and it shouldn't be ignored. And now more than ever, Joe Strummer needs us to step up and pick up the torch and be punk rock in his place.
Do it for Joe, if nothing else.
Sure. So the next track up is kind of a shift on this that I loved, at its plume. And one of my other, you guys, as I said, are on that list for me, but the band Pulp, which is another British band, is a huge impact and influence on me in favor. And when I heard this, I got very Pulp vibes, which you guys started long before Jarvis and they did, but still, I loved the idea of kind of the swagger and strut of this song. And it just immediately resonated with me. What was this track a little bit to you, and trying to put that energy in the world that it's okay to put those feathers on and express yourself in a loud way?
It is that, I suppose, but it's also a kind of almost like an academic exercise of picking a word. I don't know if you ever see English sitcom called Nathan Barley.
I don't think so. No, I don't know that.
It's a little known collaboration between Chris Morris, who did all the Brass Eye stuff, and your man Charlie Brooker, the Black Mirror guy.
Yes.
And they did this one. It was just it was a very kind of social satire about a particular very sort of niche enclave of London life in the 90s. And there's this bloke, the hero of it is Nathan Barley, who's this kind of proto hipster, really. And he's it sounds like probably Chris Morris has invented this, almost like another language that this guy has sort of invented, sort of hipster argot. And so he keeps coming out with words that are like superlatives, but you've never heard them before. So you go, "Oh, come on, man! It's like a drum and bass night tonight. It'll be well bum." Or another one is "Oh yeah, no, it'd be Oh come down to the party tonight at the Bricklayers. It'll be well brown. And
I remember one from there was I'm gonna gaze at the mayonnaise. That one hit me. There's a line there where I did a spit take when I heard that when I was listening. So that was great.
Well, that was the idea of that was I wanted to sort of surround this word with so we're going to take it as read that to be plumed is a fantastic thing. Yes, and yes, I just need to be plumed, but first I must be on my own. Give me the room, and I put on my special hat, and so this sort of idea of slightly pervy kind of secrecy that you need to be properly plumed, and then these verses where I suppose there is a sort of pulpy kind of the English every day, where I imagine somebody sitting in a working men's cafe looking at mayonnaise and feeling nothing at all, feeling like I'm just numb, having some sort of French existential moment with some Coleman's mayonnaise sitting on the table. It's a nonsense song. Actually, it's quite a silly song, I think.
Sure, I mean, there's a silly, but again, I mean, that's both pulp or Shriekback. That's one of the things I love, that you can do that. Take something that's a bit tongue in cheek and also make it fun and sexy. And, like there's a power to that, because pageantry for me, as somebody in goth music, I always say, if you're wearing frilly cuffs and, the tie and everything, and you can't laugh at yourself, if you're utterly dead on serious about it, you've missed the fun or the point of this. That's part of what that culture really, to me, needs to embrace. And I think when I hear a song like that from you guys, that's what I'm hearing, is that if you're not able to look at life and be able to laugh at yourself a little bit, then you're not experiencing it. You're not really, seeing the whole spectrum.
I think it's a very good axiom to live by. Aristotle, it was, who said that comedy is a higher form than tragedy. Back in the day when Nemesis was out, and there was all this kind of dark stuff about Apocalypse Now and choosing evil, and evil is an exact science, and all this. And there was a certain kind of, I guess, a kind of proto-goth kind of person who would come along to Shriekback gigs in the States in those days. And when I talked to them, I was often kind of, I'm not sure you understand that this is a joke, right? This whole thing is just really silly. It's a kind of comic book thing, and dinosaurs are in it. And what the fuck do you really think? There was one journalist. I was in New York. My girlfriend had come over, and we went for a meal, and he was doing the interview while we were having the meal, and I went out to the loo. And then came back in, and afterwards she said to me, "Do you know what he said to me when you went to the loo?" So no, she said, "Is you can tell me is Barry evil?" And she was really serious. I was like, "No!" I was more annoyed that you didn't get the joke. Then that's unforgivable.
No, it is. It's true. It, as somebody who, like I said, listens to that scene in particular and writes about it, I do. I think people do miss the joke on that. It used to always cheer me up if I was having a bad day. I'd listen to like the Swans or the Sisters of Mercy and think to myself, whatever I'm going through in my life, which is very real, I'm sad about this. This is real, but I'm not on the sinking lead weights of failure. Whatever I'm going through isn't what that guy's going through. And,
okay, right.
And that lifts me up and lets me laugh to be able to, if he's that over the top about it, it cheers me up to know that my silly problem that some girl done me wrong is not that bad. And I need to be able to laugh at myself.
Yeah. There is something kind of uplifting about performative self-flagellation as well, isn't there?
Sure, sure.
When you said Sisters of Mercy, I've dug out this is it this
This
corrosion?
corrosion, yeah, that's
This
one of their
corrosion.
biggest hits for sure.
And it's just so over the top, kind of. It's just hilarious. I think
Yeah. And the extra funny part about that is that Andrew Eldritch, the Sisters, is always adamant that he is not goth. He's very intensely serious about it. How dare you refer to me as goth, even though all goth music that came after Sisters of Mercy was pretty much based on his aesthetic and sound, yet he refuses to, kind of acknowledge it. And that's, again, another layer of a beautiful joke that I absolutely love too, is that he won't acknowledge it. So that makes it even better. So
if it walks, suck it out. My Cat, the fiddle player who plays on Monument, actually played with the Sisters of Mercy for a little while.
I didn't know that. That's
fun.
I was going to ask you coming up here, and I guess we could kind of jump to that a little bit. Is do you have because you have had some other rotating players, or I definitely noticed a lot, and I didn't see in the liner notes some I believe female backup vocals that are on certain tracks. Do you have anybody you want to shout out that was a part of the album?
There's only everyone's credited who played on it, which is to say Wendy and Sarah Partridge, who are backing singers since the mid '80s, I think. Sung on pretty much every record. And then Cat, as I said, Cat Evans, fiddle player, and on one track, on Wasps, in fact, all the backing track was done by Mike Tournier, who's the sort of musical brains behind Fluke, the techno band.
Yeah.
He and I did a collaboration called Anaxaton 6 some years ago, which I think is great. I think people should check that out. It's up on the Shriekback site, and I think it's on Spotify.
I'll make sure to put a link to that when I release the interview, and we'll be able.
Oh yeah, please do. Yeah,
to check it out.
That'd be great. So that was me and Mike's first kind of trying to collaborate on something, and so yeah, their manager got in touch with me a little while ago and said they were doing another Fluke. They basically split up, but they got back together and were doing another Fluke record. And would I like to participate? And I said yes, I would. And it I don't know, we were both sort of, me and Mike were sort of too old and cranky really to collaborate, I think, something anyway. But we did do that, and significantly, it was the first thing that we worked on together. There was Wasps. So yeah, we got that far. And then the whole thing kind of fizzled out after a few more false starts. But I said, I really like it. I think it sounds kind of a bit shriekful as well. So he said, "All right, use it on the Shriekback record." That's how. But yeah, those are the four people who are on it on the album as well as me.
I know you've done even like kind of what people would consider like super groups before that you've collaborated on. And to me, that's such a big part of music, being able to do collaborations with people, working on each other's albums and contributing ways. But it is, as you said, it's difficult. Artists are big personalities and don't always have a simple or easy time being able to cohese and give and take and work together in that way.
Very hard, isn't it? I mean, if you I remember Andy Partridge from XTC, who's a very talented man, obviously, but one of the world's worst collaborators. I mean, it's a fucking nightmare working with the guy. I remember him saying in a sort of guarded, off-guard moment, well, it's like, if he's very very good painter and visual artist. He said, if you do a painting, somebody doesn't come over and go, I think you need a bit more green in the bottom left-hand corner, do they? And if they did, you'd feel justified in telling them to fuck off. And I think that is the essential problem, isn't it? That in order to make anything that's any good, you have to make a bunch of decisions, and it almost doesn't matter what they are, so long as they're made, and so long as they're clear. And that's what it is, making something. It's just one decision after another. Yeah, not that. No, not that. That's shit. Do that. That's great. And to anybody outside, well, what was the difference between that and that? Well, one is shit and the other's great, obviously. And that's what you do. You just keep. So if you have a lot of people, and I used to find this in spades with record companies, that you'd be building this careful thing carefully and sort of, no, not that actually, but maybe that. You're doing all this, and then some dickhead comes in and goes, yeah, well, I think the guitar on the second verse, what have you done with that? So it didn't work, so we got rid of it. He said, no, you need that guitar on the second verse. And clearly all that's happening is just a power play, isn't it? It's just like I'm ever so important, and if you piss me off, I might be able to do something with the way this is getting funded, actually. So you better listen to me about the guitar on the second verse. And I would find it so frustrating. I want to kill the guy, because it doesn't matter about the guitar. It doesn't work on the second verse. I think it doesn't work. And somebody has to make the decision that it doesn't work. I think film directors have all the sympathy in the world from me.
Oh yeah, I mean that's
the studio comes in and says, and you're talking, not thousands but millions of pounds going into something, and some bloke who clearly doesn't know what they're talking about comes in,
and a lot of times it's not even that. Now they're probably just pulling up an algorithm or and just hearing from that, okay, generally this is what will be popular, so we as the studio are going to change the story to this, when that had nothing to do with what the original artistic idea was. I think that's what's ruining film and art, and what at a exponential rate is the idea that we're not letting humans create it half the time anymore. I think a lot of times it comes from a studio looking at what's been popular in the past, and I think that's happened to you.
But I don't know. It's also, I think, on the other side of that, if I think about you were talking about my process, and I love it when people ask me about my process. It makes me feel very serious and artistic. But I mean, if you really, really get down to the nitty gritty about what anybody's process is, it is like it's a bunch of things, again, like talking about predestination, that the reason I make the sort of stuff I make is because of like a whole bunch of things, the way I was brought up, the particular historical moment I was born in, the songs that were on Auntie Joan's record player, a particular sort of bunch of life experiences that pushed me one way or the other into the, and so, and why I like that particular word that might end up as being the chorus of the song, and all of these things it's only the process that AI uses. It isn't that I'm adding some kind of human soulful element to all this. I'm just a more sophisticated AI at the moment, but all they need to do is make, like any of these like computer systems, isn't it really? They start off being able to do Pong or play drafts, but then it's never very long till they're beating the world's greatest chess player on a regular basis. And I think that's the same with. I think we're on borrowed time, is what I'm saying, Ken.
Yeah.
I think enjoy the human element while you can, because it's going to go.
I do think the opposite is starting to happen because of technology too. And as somebody who, as I said, I mean, has a music review page that focuses on bands made or like doing things since 2018. I think one of the culture changes in music and bands is that nowadays record labels don't have as much control of that, because in 1990, when we'd try and put out a record, we would go to a studio, and it cost a lot of money to like be in their expensive studio. And we would hope we'd get the right guitar take in a couple takes, vocal takes, so on, because we can only afford so many hours to do this. And nowadays, all of us have the equivalent of that studio in our house for $2,000. And if we want to do 20 overlapping guitar tracks, because that's where our hearts take us, that's what we do.
Tell me about it.
And so in that sense, it has a lot of artistic freedom, but being able to punch through the tidal wave of new music that's out now and get noticed, I think is a lot harder than it was in 1990. So I think it's ups and downs on both sides, but I think in some ways people are getting the chance to make some truly underground artistic music, the exact vision that they had in their heads now, where that wasn't necessarily true back then.
No, I 100% agree.
So we've been talking for a while now. I know I'm keeping you up. I want to talk a little bit about what's the future for you now, Barry. What is it that, you have this album out. Are you planning to go play out with it and do festivals at all?
No,
or do you want to keep making more music or another album for it? What is it that you see?
I've already started writing. I didn't mean to. I was just fucking about on the keyboard the other day and noticed that I rather like that. I might do something with that. And then sort of before you know it, you're kind of, oh shit, I've started another record, haven't I? God damn it. Brilliant. So I've got about eight tunes on the go now. And so I think just keep cranking them out, Barry, as long as I can. It seems to be what I'm for. So I'll keep doing it.
Is there anything we talked about happening now, whether it's in, we said politics now, or whether it's in pop culture now, that's kind of been inspiring you in this new record that isn't even in the world yet?
I think I've tried to stay away from the. I resent the energy that the rise of the right wing and collapse of the West. It's that it absorbs from everybody. I sort of consciously kind of try and avoid writing about it. I suppose inevitably it's going to kind of seep in, but what I try and do, I suppose, is keep things as it's sort of that's a good question. Maybe I'm trying to make things more abstract in order to avoid just doing an album of protest songs.
That's a worthy goal. Honestly, at this point where the world is and the darkness in it, people, I think, need escapism more than they need someone to point out just how fucking dark everything is.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I was trying to. A couple of days ago, I was feeling like I'm not doing anything all day, and I just think I'll sit and watch a bit of telly, some real kind of brain rot TV. And what should I end up watching? But the first season of The Handmaid's Tale. Why am I doing this?
And it's way too real right now.
Oh God, it's so well done as well. That first season anyway is it's really upsetting, and there's so many parallels in it, and so that's what I ended up doing in an attempt to find some nice escapist kind of.
I got to meet Margaret Atwood one time. She gave a talk that I went to and then saw her at dinner after, and just a fascinating person. And not at all what I expected. I went in with kind of one of those people. I went in with an idea in my head and then met her, and she completely flipped the book on me on who I thought she was going to be, and was just a wonderful, fascinating, super cool, but also very piercing, straightforward person.
She strikes me as one who would not suffer fools.
No, that was just it. She reminded me like a Canadian trucker after like 3 shots of whiskey. That's how,
Oh, right. Okay. No, I wouldn't say that. Good old Maggie.
kind of had like a gruffer voice and everything. I don't know. She was very fascinating and incredibly intelligent.
Well, yeah, I imagine she is.
Yeah.
The
So
it was quite a because I tried to watch the second season of The Handmaid's Tale just to go into TV critic mode for a moment,
sure.
and it was just like you saw just the depth and integrity and the work, just the sheer work that had gone into creating that world and making things happen in it and examining, well, what would that be like then? And what about the commanders and their wives? I mean, what's their story? What would they feel? And so she goes through this all and ties a bow around the end where, yeah, it's still pretty fucked, but there is hope. And that's kind of it. But no, we've got to do another season, haven't we? But there's only one book. Damn. And then so I watched like sort of half an episode of the beginning of the next season. This was put together by some script writers in a room, wasn't it? Over like a weekend.
That is the other thing, murdering art, is the idea of like turning The Hobbit into 3 hour movies or something when it was
still furious about that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, but I mean, I think that's very common for a lot of things. The idea that we need to stretch this into a cash cow instead of enjoying and letting it be the story that it is.
Sure. While we're on this tip, have you ever seen Bad Sisters?
I did. I love that show. It was well, at least the first season I saw.
There you go.
And
That's exactly
I thought it was very cute, very interesting. I liked the cast a lot. I thought it was a very interesting story.
It's based on a Belgian TV show, apparently.
Oh, I didn't know that. I only knew the Irish one.
Yeah, but like you say, so the whole thing with the Belgian thing was this beautifully constructed little sort of evil, sort of but sympathetic and playing with your sympathies and kind of and doing a lovely sort of thing with time as well, sort of back and forth. So you keep in the present and then going back and then finally concluding and that's it. And there was no sequel to the Belgian one, but obviously all the people who create or Sharon Horgan.
Once something gets any monetary success, we need to stretch it out, going back to the Tolkien reference again until it's not enough butter over too much toast.
Exactly. Yeah. So the second season of it was like, why are we doing this? And who's he? I don't care about her. And the whole thing just becomes this sort of just kill them all. I don't care about them anymore. How they will drown in the sea.
Well, I do think that that's something that I wished happened more, is that people would just get to tell a story. The story ends, and if it was good, then some producer gives them money to tell a different story. But we as a culture do seem to be obsessed with, if it wasn't something we've heard before, they're not willing to embrace it. And again, as somebody who does a lot of reviewing, the resurgence of new dark wave, goth, shoegaze music and whatnot, I definitely feel that sometimes, where I wish people would give more of a try to what people are doing now, rather than wanting to see a tribute band or a cover band of something that's come before.
I agree with you, but I do get it. I do get why that is. I was talking to somebody the other day about it was somebody saying to me, God, Shriekback are really good. I was going, yeah, I'm pretty good, aren't we? So, why aren't you more famous? Why haven't you got more fans? Why don't you sell more records? All right, I'll tell you why. Because there's a thing that makes people fall in love with bands, isn't there? There's something, and it's usually something to do with their youth and certain things that happened back then, and that's the first time I took drugs, and the first time when I got off with somebody, and then there was that night when you played at so and so, and you were really good, and I was in the crowd, and I was me and my mates, we were singing Nemesis all the way home, and and all that. And that's what makes a fan, isn't it? And that's what makes somebody who's got enough enthusiasm to still want to buy a Shriekback record now. But you're not going to very easily make those sort of converts off Spotify or anything else really. And so what the other thing I was saying to my mate who was floated this horrible little thought experiment was I remember watching Andy Parridge and Mike Coles both try to launch record labels, both with a little bit of money, not very much, exquisite musical taste, and some energy for the project. And their whole idea was like, find great bands that that wouldn't otherwise have a chance, use the kudos of my label, give them a bit of dough, pay for a publicist, blah, 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 get them in the studio, maybe with somebody that I know, and they did all that. And Mike Coles in particular, who ran Malicious Damage, where we put out the 3 Shriekback records.
Yeah.
He said, last time I saw him, he said, I after about 5 years of doing that, he said, I didn't want to do it anymore. The only things that sold were you lot, The Orb, and Killing Joke. And the only reason they sold was because, back in the day, we'd all gone out and done gigs and, and given people experiences and had this sort of legacy database, these people that would still cough up for record. But it's very, very fucking hard, I think, so there's this new band from Southampton and they're amazing. God, this singer's incredible. And they write these brilliant songs. They all look fantastic and they're all about 25. And that should all work, shouldn't it? Why wouldn't that work? And then lo and behold, they make the video and they go on the gig and they sell to the people who come to see their gigs, who all think they're great, but it's very, very hard to flip that over into anything more than that.
It is. And I think using the example you just said, I'll say as somebody who, as I said, knows kind of the modern scene of goth industrial music.
Yeah.
You guys have very much kind of like, I think of Joy Division. In their time, honestly, not that many people cared about Joy Division, right? While they were happening, it was after when they became New Order and whatnot. But if you went to every band that mattered in the 90s, from different genres, from, say, Nirvana to Nine Inch Nails, which are 2 very different things, but everyone would say Joy Division was one of their primary inspirations. Uh-huh. And so the people in the know, the actual artists who know art, loved Joy Division, even if general culture at the time did not. I think Shriekback does that a lot. When I see bands that are big now, in the industrial, in particular scene, Shriekback is one of the more covered bands by modern bands that are great in like the last 8 or 9 years out of almost anyone. They're a kind of universally respected thing from people who got it, who grew up in their formative years, like you said, like me, when I was, 16, 17, 18 in the 90s, listening to it, we were the people that were inspired by Shriekback. And so when we got into our 30s and 40s and started making music, that's what we wanted to pay homage to and cover. And if you haven't, I could send you 10 amazing Shriekback covers right now.
I was about to say that I love hearing covers of our shit.
Yeah.
So please do that.
We're inspired by you, Barry. And so I think, to me, that is part of the monument to you, is that even if pop culture didn't always grasp what you had done, artists and people who really make music and do it professionally and take it seriously that grew up at that time period, they did. And I think that's a monument to you that you should always take with you, because there are new bands that I respect and love, and they loved you that much too.
Thanks, Ken. That's very kind words. Appreciate it.
So we talked.
What was that? But why does the drink round your head?
Oh, that's when the world gives it to you, I give it back to the world.
Oh, nice. Okay, I'll start doing that now.
Kind of a little cheers. All right. So we're coming up to the end here. I will have links to the new record that's come out. We talked a lot about the songs there, and you don't have any plans to go out and go on tour, which I understand. My 47-year-old ass doesn't want to go on tour, but I can understand where you're coming from. But a new record coming is very exciting. I think there's a lot for people to hear here, and this new album is really, really great and really eclectic. And to me, does what Shriekback does so well, which is find that place between pageantry, escapism, and fun, but also hitting on serious themes that are affecting us today. And it is a lightning in a bottle thing to be able to do that. And I think that's what this record achieves. So I hope that all of our listeners and all of our readers go check that out.
Thanks, Ken. I appreciate that. I like this, the sound of pageantry.
Yes,
it makes me feel like a beef eater.
That's what I think of as Shriekback, is somebody who, we do very silly goth songs about ninjas and ass play and shit. But they're still goth. But pageantry is a big part of that. And to me, that's something that Shriekback always inspired in me, is that it had this sense of showmanship, of a surrealism with both the lyrics and the videos and just the sound. I love that idea. And to me, that's what makes the best capturing of life, because life is not one thing. Life is complex. It's dark. It's terrifying. It's joyful. It's beautiful. It's all those things. And to me, when I hear a Shriekback record, that's what I hear is life. It always hits all of those notes, because that's what really makes up the human existence. And so that, to me, that's why this interview today was a big deal for me, is, that meant a lot. So if you had from the new record one song that if people were going to hear for the first time, maybe they never grew up for some reason, and heard Nemesis and some of the big hits, My Basis. What is the track that you'd like us to spin out to today to be able to share Shriekback and the new album Monument with them?
I don't know. Idiot Dancing, maybe.
I love it. That was my next one up when we got off on a tangent to talk about. I absolutely love that track. It's just fun. And what we talked about, it's a great serious concept, but it's just silly. And it's, we've all been there. And I've been the one that had a few too many and got out and did idiot dancing with the world to see and not caring. And I love that. So I would love to spit out to that one. Do you have any parting thoughts for us before I let you? I know you're way ahead of us and we're getting into the...
I am a little bit on the ebb here, Ken, for any brilliant aperçu. But it's been great talking to you. Thank you for your kind words. I do appreciate them.
So for us here at Sounds and Shadows, this has been the interview with Shriekback, and we're going to spit out to Idiot Dancing. For all of you out there in interweb land, keep it dark, yeah.
Hercules in the unstilled Cyclades. I wanna be honored in the place where the leopards eat your face. I wanna be Socrates, I wanna be Ulysses. I wanna be thought so very wise when my thoughts are analyzed. I believe in the power of song, but I'm a filthy little poison goblin with a ball gag on. It's a very poor thing, but this'll be my monument. Some kind of cruel joke, but this'll be my monument. Won't last a year out. Get the wrecking gear out. Watch it man, you sand the fan. I'll end up under the sand. Wanna be in the dictionary, the definition of victory. That crazy old king on the heath, sure enough was a kick in the teeth. Wanna soar in the Pleiades, wanna have epiphanies. But the cheap little plaque on the wall is not edifying at all.
I believe in the power of song, but I'm a scabby little Jimmy Jingle in a wet look thong.
All the tiles are cracked up, but this'll be my monument. Vandalized and sacked, but this'll be my monument. Buried under Milltown, you're gonna have to drill down. Watch it man be a sass, or I'll end up under the bus. I wanna be staggerly in the Rascals Gallery, possibly morally grey, but cool at the end of the day. If I can't be Solomon, I'll settle for Gollum. If I can't be wickedly hip, you can chuck me into the skip.
I believe in the power of song, but I'm a craven little half-baked shitter who is just so wrong.
It's a very poor thing, but this'll be my monument. Some kind of cruel joke, but this'll be my monument. It's a pile of crap now, I sold it off for scrap now. Ozymandias I project will just get colossally wrecked.